I bet your mom gave you lots of advice over the years, and maybe it wasn't your mom, maybe it was your dad, or maybe it was an aunt or a teacher or someone that cared about you, and a few of those words of wisdom stuck with you. Well, that happened for me. My mom, one of the things she always told me was, I don't really care what you do, but make sure that you choose something you really, really like because you're going to be doing it for a long time. And I took that to heart and I remembered that, but I'm seeing it play out almost 40 years later of the different things in my life. And I wish I'd known now what I just learned over the last couple of months, and I'm going to share with you because it would have made it a lot easier to make mom's little adage come true. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Over the last couple of months, I've been working on a new certification. It's the Workstyle Patterns Process, where I can help implement and coach people that take the Workstyle Patterns Inventories. I've been super excited to get this certification because this process can really help to change young people and older people's lives when it comes to work satisfaction, enjoyment, productivity, not beating yourself up all the time. So I'm excited to share some information about it with you today. The work style patterns process has all come out of a wonderful couple, Donna and Tomas McIntosh Fletcher, and that's how they got the McFlecher Corporation. And this process I've been really excited to learn about and become certified in and share it with you, honestly, because it's a game changer for your work life. And we do work a long time in our life, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, anywhere from 48 to 50 weeks a year. That's a lot of working. And so you really want to enjoy that time. Some people work way more. They don't just do 40 hours a week and they work multiple jobs. I worked multiple jobs out of college for many, many years. So I'm excited to share this with you today. So, what is exactly this thing we're talking about? And what are work style patterns? What is this all about? Well, let me share with you. Okay. The work style patterns refers to unique ways that individuals prefer to work and interact within their professional environment. It's not restricted to your professional environment. It could be how you work within a team, a sports team. It could be just how you interact with your family. These patterns impact your personal fulfillment, your job satisfaction, and your productivity. It impacts your stress level, frankly. And if you can understand what your work style profile is and what certain tasks or environments may or may not cause you stress, you can enjoy your work, you can be more productive, and really become the career professional that you want to be. So let's see what we're talking about here. When we talk about work, there is the work that you want to do. All right. So we're going to talk about the work that you want to do. That is the work you enjoy doing, you want to do. You may not even realize it, but there are certain ways you want to work. Then the organization has ways that you should work. They wrote position descriptions for your particular position. You have supervisors that have expectations, and they have supervisors that have expectations potentially. You have people in your family that have expectations. You have people on your sports team that have expectations. That is the should of the work. If what they're expecting and wanting doesn't compare well to what you want, that's going to cause stress for the organization as well as for you. But there's a third aspect, and that is the is of work. The is of work is what you're actually doing. So sometimes there's what we want to be doing, and that there's what we are actually doing day to day when we show up to work or show up to the family or show up to that team. And come to find out, that doesn't even align with the should of the work. But these all need to align. All right. We want all of these to align with one another because that's when people can be the most productive, the most happy in their work, get along with their colleagues or their family members the best, and everybody's really literally on the same page. Because if you're not doing the should work of the organization, that is going to cause organizational stress. The organization isn't going to get their goals, reach their goals, and they're going to pass that stress on to you or your supervisors, and the company will not thrive. At the same time, if you are not able to do the work that you want to do, that's going to cause you personal stress. Everybody can do that for a short period of time, but not for an extended period of time. And if the work you are doing isn't even what you should be doing or what you want to be doing, imagine that. That causes the organization and you stress. So these are points of stress. And we're going to talk about this so that you can consider taking the Workstyle Patterns inventories, or at least thinking more about the work you're doing. And is it the work you want to be doing, or is there other work you should be doing? What happens when these don't align? You get talent churn. Your talent churn for your organization goes up. You have family stress. Potentially, you have family members that disengage or try not to be home much. You have teammates that don't practice very hard and don't want to be on the team anymore. What happens to productivity if these don't align? Productivity goes down. People don't produce as much. People don't give their best. They just exist in that job, family relationship, or on that team. There's friction, right? There's friction within the family. There's friction within that work team. Maybe you don't get along with your supervisor or your boss. And there's inefficiencies, all right? There's inefficiencies and innovation that goes down. Inefficiency goes up and if innovation goes down. People can't be innovative or thoughtful about the work they're doing and come up with better ways to do it if they're stressed or if they're doing work they do not want to do. Well, then what is the solution? What can we do about this? What is the solution to solving these problems? These are a lot of problems, and these are why a lot of organizations don't do as well as they could or fail. It's why people fail. It's why teams may lose games or may lose contests. And it's why families have a lot of stress. So, what can we do about it? Well, we can apply the Workstyle Patterns process to these systems. And why does that matter or is that important? Well, that is because the solution is alignment, creating alignment. But you can't create alignment until you understand yourself and the organization understands each and every position. So, what does this involve? The McFlecher Corporation has created research-based inventories. These have been validated, researched. Their talent is in the research and development of these inventories and these strategies and making all of these connections. They've done it for nearly 50 years. 50 years. And so these inventories will help an individual figure out their work style profile. And then a supervisor can use the position expectation inventory to figure out what are really the expectations of that position. And you can also then take an inventory at the same time you take your work style preference. You can also take an inventory that finds out the work you are doing currently, and you're going to get results that show you, well, how does my work style want and my work style is that I'm doing, how do those align? And the organization can see if those align and do they align with the job expectation, because it is possible, hard to believe I know, that all three of these could be completely different or completely out of alignment. And as you can imagine, this is not a great way to work. So what comes out of these are detailed reports that talk about the alignment among your work preference, the job demands, and the desires of your organization. And it also comes up with personalized action plans, which contain strategies to improve your job satisfaction, performance, and overall fulfillment based on your work style profile. Imagine you have some language around this and you're able to actually align with your want of work, the type of work you want to be doing. And the sooner you learn this, the more picky you can be about your next job or your next business endeavor or whatever it is you are seeking to do next. So this inventory is not about behavior, because behaviors change. We can learn and we change our behavior over time. This is about your orientations towards getting work done and how you prefer to do that. That doesn't change over time appreciably. Their research has gone over and over this, and whatever kind of is your work style preference when you're young, even in second grade, is going to be the same one you have when you're 50, 60 years old. Now you can mature in your work style preference, but you're not going to change. So what am I talking about when I talk about work style preference? Let's take a look at this diagram provided by the McFlecher Corporation. And here we see the orientations of work. And the orientations of work include task activities. So that is working on your product or service. Surgeons, for example, are very task oriented. That's the best one I can think of. They care very much about their craft and about how they complete those tasks. Now, they're very complex tasks, but nonetheless, they're tasks that they complete themselves as an individual. So they are very task oriented. Then you have individuals who tend to be project oriented. It's their preference, okay? They're oriented towards projects and people. They get work done through project management and managing people to do those projects. This is more of a rare orientation, and it's not to say that an individual can't be a project manager or work with others to get projects done, but their preference would be not to necessarily do that, perhaps. So these are preferences of each individual. It's not about what you can and cannot do. But let's face it, if we're asked to do something we really don't enjoy over and over and over again, at some point there is going to be stress and lack of productivity and procrastination. And that isn't going to be productive. So, for example, I've always said I don't play in the sandbox well with others. That's very kind of demeaning to myself, and I try not to say that anymore because now I've learned it's just not my preference to work with others to get a project done. If I want to be part of a team and get a project done, I will do that. But I generally like to take my piece of the project, go do that, and then I'll come back later and we can rejoin and look at where we are at the project. I want to go take my tasks and do them and come back. I don't necessarily want to sit at a table and work all together and everybody kind of share in the work. That's not what I prefer, and that's okay. That is no negativity towards myself. It's my preference. And now that I've learned that, wow, that's a whole frame shift than I had before. But if I go back and look at all the things I've done in my life, that is definitely the way I prefer to work, not with a big group all at the same time. Give me my tasks and my piece of the project, and I'll be back later. Can I manage a project? Yes, I can. Can I manage people to get a project done? Yes, I can. Is it my preference, and will I do that consistently and well on a long-term basis? Probably not. Then we have organization orientation, meaning you're focused on strategy, goals, results, the bigger picture. Now, this again is something that I have a preference for. Some people have a preference for this, some people do not. Surgeons, again, for example, focus on tasks. They don't necessarily want to be involved in how the hospital's running. What's the next big thing for the hospital? Hospital administration. That's not necessarily their preference. They want to go do surgery. Now, you will have people that may have both. And so they may become a hospital administrator at some point. I think you see the same thing in higher ed. In higher ed, faculty members tend to have the preference of task orientation. But then there is administrative faculty members who take that on later in their career. That's because they also may have a preference for those organizational activities. They've discovered a fourth orientation, which is adapting, meaning you don't really have a strong preference for any of these other three orientations. You like to kind of do a little bit of all three. And so you are adapting. And there are more and more individuals, young people that are in the adapting orientation. But it becomes a problem if your entire organization is adapting, because that means nobody's highly task oriented, nobody's highly strategic and goal oriented, and nobody's project oriented. They just like it a little bit. When that happens, you can imagine that nobody wants to take the reins in any of those one areas because they kind of like to sit in the middle. And again, that's their preference, and that's what they'll be really good at. And that's okay, because you can function there. But you need a mix of all of these types of preferences to have a healthy team, a healthy family, a healthy organization. Or you need an understanding of what people's preferences are to see what can be done with the different pieces and parts of the organization so that people are functioning at least more in their area of preference. I find this all extremely fascinating. And if you think about your life and places where you've succeeded or where you've not succeeded, likelihood is the places you've not succeeded isn't because you're dumb or you're lazy or you're a bad worker or anything personal like that. Most likely, it's just the type of work that you don't prefer, and you can't sustain that for long periods of time. All right, let's take and look at an example of what you will see if you were to participate in this process and what you could learn. So this is Hal's example alignment. So the dark kind of maroon line there is Hal's preferred work style orientation. So Hal likes tasks pretty well, and Hal likes organizational work pretty well. Hal does not necessarily enjoy a project orientation. So in looking at this, And over all the work that they've done over this last almost 50 years, the preferred profile for Hal is an independent worker. So they've put names to all of these kind of sets of data that they have collected. So then Hal took this inventory as the work he is actually performing now. So when he did this, what he found out was he was actually doing a lot of project work. He was doing work through people and projects. His tasks were low. He wasn't doing as many tasks as he potentially preferred to do. And he was not as high in the strategy or the organizational type of orientation that he would prefer. So he actually had a completely flip-flopped preference or actual job he was doing versus his preference. And he's actually got a supervisor actual profile. So in theory, Hal is a supervisor. He probably was a really good worker at whatever job this is. And this plays out over and over all the time. He was a good worker at what he did. He got the job done. Everybody thought he was great. The organization said, Hal is great at this job. He's the next one we want to be a supervisor. And they probably promoted him to supervisor, made more money, prestige, whatever. And Hal said, sure, I need more money. And this is the next step in my career, the next step in my career. So Hal did this. But if you look, it's not the type of work he likes to do. So potentially now, Hal is really stressed out because he has a pretty good gap between the project orientation he's expected to do or is doing versus the project work he likes to do. He's getting to kind of help forge the direction of the organization, but not as much as he wants to. And then the biggest issue is his gap there between his task, what he would prefer to be doing in tasks, and what he is doing in tasks. So potentially Hal was not a great fit for this position or a great choice for this position. And now we're not even looking at what the expectations are of the organization. So he could actually, it could be even more misaligned than that. But the point here is Hal has work stress. He's probably not performing up to the expectations of the organization like they thought he would. And again, this story plays out time and time again. If Hal understands this, he potentially could, for short term, do projects and do a really good job at that. Or they could have a conversation that maybe the job description can be changed or the job duties could be changed, or maybe there's another way to promote Hal in the organization that doesn't require him to do work through people. But these conversations cannot happen unless we have this knowledge and this alignment story. Let's just look at one more example. We're going to look at Alice's story. So again, Alice has a really high preference for organization orientation. She likes the strategy potentially. She likes to see the big picture. She likes to have that organization focus. She does not like part of the job. And she has a decent amount of project management and working through people. Now, let's look at the actual job she's doing. So her preferred profile is manager. So what is the actual work she's doing? Project management. And if you look, she is in pretty good alignment with this job. She's actually doing a little bit more project work than she maybe prefers to do. And she's not doing as much work towards the organizational goals as she would prefer to do. So the organization can look at that. Maybe she becomes the leader of the project managers and does more team strategy and team focus and how that fits with the bigger organization. Who knows? But there's language around that for them to have. But you'll notice that her desires and wants for what work she's doing and the actual work she's doing are very closely aligned. So her stress is probably minimal and she's probably enjoying her work a lot more. Well, that is just an introduction to Workstyle Patterns Process, taking the inventories and then meeting with a certified coach partner, such as myself from Future Ready Consulting or someone else that's certified, and going over the results so that you, as an individual, better understand the work that you want to do, better understand the work you are doing and how those align. And then, of course, if your company wants to participate in a wider participation, if you have a team you run or you have an organization you run, then you're going to want kind of a bigger picture and want to do position expectation inventory. So you get the whole three-pronged approach at looking at work alignment, team alignment, family alignment. I'm very excited about this. You're going to hear more about this in the coming months. And we would love to partner with you. If you're an individual and you have a lot of work stress, and you always have, or even better, you're a teen or a parent of a teen is getting ready to figure out what they want to do with their lives, do with college, this is a great start to figure out what type of work do you want to do. It's not about majors. You're probably not even going to do the work in the major you started in. It's about work preference. And once you have that nailed down, you can switch companies, you can switch types of work, whether you're a project manager in a healthcare organization or you're a project manager at a beer distributorship. It could be anywhere, right? But if you understand the work you want to do, that's a game changer. So contact Future Ready Consulting if you are interested in learning more about the work style patterns process and alignment. We'd love to speak with you. Really excited to share more about how this can benefit you and your organization. So, long story short, Mom was right. You do have to enjoy your work and be aligned with the type of work you like to do, with the type of work you are doing, with the type of work you're being expected to do. Want, is, should all have to be aligned. So thank you, Mom. And thank you to the McFlecher Corporation, who has done the research to prove how this is all true. All right. Thank you for watching. Check out one of our other videos. We're here to support you in your journey to financial freedom, whether that be for changing the type of work you're doing, starting a new business, whatever it is, we're here for you. So please subscribe, and we'll be back with more tips and tricks again in another couple weeks. Take care, and remember, without impact, it doesn't matter.